Choosing the right sports betting platform can be tricky, as most mobile sports betting apps come with limited betting options and customization, delayed cash out and withdrawal times, and tedious customer support, and no true loyalty program with continuous rewards even after signing up. All of this leads to a frustrating, one-sided experience. So, how do you find the one which suits you best? Introducing Zensports. It combines the best of both worlds, a traditional sports book and a cutting-edge peer-to-peer marketplace. Zensports allows you to accept bets against the house, or use our peer-to-peer marketplace to create your own one-of-a-kind bet and set your own odds without the need for a bookmaker. At Zensports, you get more betting options and a cashback rewards through our unique welcome bonus, continuous loyalty program every month, and referral rewards delivered directly into your account. So what are you waiting for? Download the Zensports app today at zensports.com.
Welcome to Bluff City Bets, a Bluff City media podcast. Join Daniel Greer and Chase Bobbitt as they give their plays of the day and strategies for success as a sports bettor. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? I am Daniel Greer, your host of Bluff City Bets, where I make you just a little bit smarter and make your cash go a little bit farther. Bluff City Bets is presented by Zensports here on the Bluff City Media Network. Complete coverage of all things Memphis and the surrounding areas and beyond. Make sure you tune in each and every week, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you can get your podcast, whether that is on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. We are growing there, but also the audio version of it. Make sure you go ahead and tune in wherever you can hear your podcast, wherever. Go ahead and subscribe to us here at Bluff City Bets. All right, Zensports, they are our presenting sponsor, and let me tell you a little bit more about them. Zensports is a new sports book. It's been around for about 2 months now here in the Tennessee area. So if you are a resident of Memphis, but also here in Tennessee, you can download Zensports now. Zensports is a very good app. It's very friendly. Even if you are a person that is learning how to bet, I promise you Zensports is the app for you. As soon as you sign up and use the code BLUFFC, you'll get 5% cash back for everything that you spend for the first 15 days. And then you get 3%, up to 3% cash back at the first of every month. Use it as a Zensports savings account. And so you can make sure that you can have your 3% cash back as much as you spend there at Zensports. And the best thing of all is you can make sure that you have your friends playing with you. And with that, just give them your referral code and you can get 5% cash back just for referring them. And because of that, you get it for the first 6 months. Go ahead and sign up now at Zensports. Download the app and use the code BLUFFC. And I promise you, you won't regret it. But it helps us. It makes us look good. And we're trying to make you money. So use the code BLUFFC now when you go ahead and sign up for Zensports. All right. Today's show is all about the St. Jude FedEx golf tournament. I don't know why I flipped those, but the FedEx St. Jude golf tournament here in Memphis, here in the Bluff City, just right around the corner. Make sure that you tune in for the entire interview that we have with one of the best golf handicappers around. I ended up referring to him as the golf gambling god. It was cheeky, but it was fun. And so Nejad is on here, and make sure that you tune in to the entire interview. I promise you, you don't want to miss. We get into a little bit of how he was an attorney, now turned gambling analyst. And so with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into the interview now with Nejad. All right, we're here with a special interview. This is a Wednesday special just for the FedEx St. Jude tournament. I brought on one of the GOATs of the golf gambling world. And he's oftentimes, you can see it on a Sunday and kind of hear the music coming down the back nine as you're about to cash. This is the music that I think of as we're coming down Sunday and we're about to cash with our guy, Nejad. What's up, man?
What's going on? Is that the Pink Panther anthem?
Yeah, hopefully there's no copyright issues, but yes, that's great. That's the Pink Panther anthem.
I love that. That sounded really cool. And so I'm old enough to know what that song references, but I can't say that I ever watched the show. But it's got such a signature tune to it. I'm glad we led with that.
Yeah. So yeah, Pink Panther, I know very little about, except for the cartoons, the kind of the gist of it. But did anybody really watch it for the substance?
I don't think so. It's a good point.
Nobody did. It's great. All right. So, Sia, obviously you are a former attorney, right? And then you turned to a betting analyst in a sense. And so I wanted to get into a little bit about you and had to bring you on because here in our backyard here in Memphis in the Bluff City, we have the FedEx St. Jude Championship Tournament. And so we want to make sure that we get into you a little bit. And so I'm going to dive into personal questions about you first. And the first one is what brought you to being, out of law, right? And now you're into the world, of the gambling stuff. It's crazy. Two worlds combined now. And so, where'd you come from?
I mean, you say it's crazy. Imagine what my parents think, right? So here's there's a little bit of layered context here in which we could spend an hour on, but I'll give you sort of the Cliff Notes version. So I practiced law as a trial attorney for 13 years. I'm still an attorney, by the way. I just don't practice. So I'm licensed in Virginia where I practiced for 3 years. I went to University of Richmond Law School. And then I moved down to South Florida kind of on a whim in the Fort Lauderdale area. Had to take the bar all over again because there's no reciprocity coming into Florida. And then past that, and then practice for another 10 years. And I was a trial attorney. The reason I sort of boldface the trial attorney part is because that's what I was really good at. I mean, as a whole, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know that I was the best attorney, but you put me in trial and I was a really good attorney. I was the associate that the partners always grab to do their big trials. And so that skill is very much transferable to the space that I'm in now. And so I think what ended up happening with me is I just didn't want to practice law the rest of my life. I knew that pretty much 3 years in, but I didn't exactly know where I was going to go. What happened was a poker friend of mine, because we had a poker game every week at the Camden Las Olas here in Fort Lauderdale. He stopped me on the street one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to come in do some pharma sales work for this dermatology company I work for?" So I actually got out of law initially to be a pharma sales guy. What is that skill in pharma sales? Well, it's walking into offices and shooting the with doctors and people of that nature. And so again, that transferable skill, it led me to pharma. And while I did pharma, I had a chance to really get into the media space. I had already been betting for 10, 20 years at that point, really closer to 20 than it was 10. So the long and short of it is I started to put media out there. I got onto an outfit called Win Daily Sports, which allowed me a platform to do shows like you're doing right now. And I was putting I finally started Twitter. And I didn't start Twitter until 10 years after everybody else. So I finally knew, okay, I got to put my content out here. Yeah. All of a sudden, and CBS Sports is sort of local to where I live, at least their .com. It's down in South Florida. So all of a sudden they started noticing, they put me on a little show here and there. And then I guess they thought I was pretty good and they started putting me on more shows. And now I have obviously my own Fantasy Football Today DFS podcast. I'm on the First Cut Show podcast. I'm all over Sportsline and the Early Edge. So it was just really jumping into the media space while I was doing something else, which specifically was pharma at the time. And just I had the freedom to put some of this content out there. And then a year ago, I was like, all right, now I'm taxed because I'm doing the pharma thing and I'm giving it my all. And I'm doing this media thing at night and I'm giving it my all. I have a family at home. There's only so much I can do. Yeah. So as of October of last year, 2022, I said, I'm going all in here. And so now I'm all in the media space and now I'm doing it full time.
Yeah, it's awesome. And watching your journey, and I've been probably CBS Sportsline member, whatever, probably since COVID, and where I was very much, as a lot of people were, where it kind of first started. And so seeing you kind of come onto the scene and then just kind of take off and still literally you're still taking off, which is awesome. And kudos to you. It's really cool to see because, we all feel like family in a sense because you don't know us as much as we know you, but seeing you and seeing what you're putting in on what people don't probably know is what you're doing on the back end when the camera's off. And I think that's very important because as you're practicing in law, it's not about really the courtroom as much as what are you doing behind the scenes, the analytical part of it. and digging in. That way you're ready to be able to speak freely, such as sales. Sales is the same thing. And that's what I do personally on my end. And so knowing, how to set yourself up for success, same thing as betting. Same thing we try to do here is try to set ourselves up for success, because you don't want to ever go in and jump into a bet. Because once you do that, you do it again. And then you're like trying to keep tracking and grabbing back. And then eventually you're down, 3-4 units. You could have been down 1. Okay. And that's what we're trying not to do. That's what we're trying to teach people. So that's awesome about you and, your personal life. I have one other personal question. And I did not know this as much about you, except for my friend John, who actually knows probably more about you than probably he should. But no, he talks a lot about how you are a big sitcom guy.
Yeah.
Right? So he has one question.
Mm-hmm.
You only have one sitcom, one show for the rest of your lives that you could actually watch. What is that one show or sitcom?
First of all, I love this question. And I ask this question in a different context to a lot of people. And it's usually with, it pertains to music. Like if there was one album or one group you could listen to the rest of your life, because usually when I ask somebody like what their favorite band is or the musical artist, they can't answer the question. So I have to sort of reframe the question. Okay, well, if you had to listen to one CD or one group the rest of your life, what would that artist be? So this is a good question in the sitcom space. And it's a very easy answer for me because my favorite show of all time, and a show that I literally between 2002 and I'm approximating here, probably 2011, this is a show I would literally go to sleep with. In other words, it would be on the TV as I basically got into bed, knowing I was going to be up for 30 or 40 more minutes. And I would just I wanted to make sure this show was on in the background because it made me feel a certain way. The best sitcom of all time, in my opinion, is Frasier. And to me, it's not that close. The shows like Seinfeld, or we're doing the sitcom bracket over at with Pat Mayo. That's probably where he's getting this question from. There's so many good shows out there, but Frasier to me offers so much, not just from a comedic standpoint, but actually from a psychological standpoint and from a life standpoint as well. I think the acting is elite as well. It takes a while to immerse yourself in it and really collect all of the goodness that the show has to offer. But if you're willing to do that, the rewatchability of that show, which I think pertains to the question itself, is unmatched, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I am not a big Frasier guy. It's tough for me to get in, I guess. And like you were just saying, it's once you get in, you're kind of you're so far in it that you pick up all the nuances. Mine, I just started back in COVID. Me and my wife were like, what are we going to watch? We got to find something new. Everybody's always talked about The Office. And so that was our show. That is our show. That's our kids' show. They love Michael. They love Dwight. They love all those guys. And you end up becoming a family. Some of us probably not family friendly for them, but they're young. They'll grow up. They'll figure it out. We'll keep them on the right track. But all right, let's get into this
real quick. The final four in the best sitcom bracket. If you don't know what that is, go to Pat Mayo's Twitter and or search for it on YouTube. We did 4 shows surrounding all the sitcoms that we had in the bracket, but the final 4 has The Office in it. It's The Office, Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and South Park made the final 4.
Wow,
yeah.
South Park.
South Park beat Simpsons in the grade 8 to make it to the final.
I was about to say both of those two shows are just always somehow putting out content that's relevant. I don't know how they're figuring it out. All right, let's get into the golf stuff. And that's what a lot of people are here for, obviously. But I want to talk about today. It's about DFS, which is daily fantasy. We're then going to go to a lot of the head-to-head matchups. And from there, we're going to pick out a winner. There's so much you can bet on within golf. I am learning that as well. I hit big in my DFS. So let's go ahead and go to DFS first. Obviously, I sent you my tweets. Everybody saw them in our Discord over at Bluff City Bets. And I did well, I think it was 2 weeks ago. But DFS guys, who are you looking for and why are you actually targeting them in particular? Because not everybody you can go after, right? But what are the guys and why?
Yeah. So first of all, I did really well 2 weeks ago as well. I think in the 50K long drive, I was second place. It was $100 single entry for 3K. So I only tout that because that was probably my biggest win certainly over the last, 8-9 weeks. So I was happy to see that. I guess we both did well a couple weeks back. But so this is an interesting tournament because we only have 70 players and it's no cut. So I think here there's a lot of guys that I like that I may end up avoiding just from a game theory standpoint, because I don't really see the need, especially with such a talent-laden field, even in the middle ranges. I don't know that I see the need to play a guy or I shouldn't say that. I'll play a guy that's 15, 16, even 23% or whatever, but I don't want to play too many of those guys because I think the pivots, while most people think, hey, they're just trash or they're garbage right now because of their recent form, this is golf at the end of the day. So what I'm looking for, honestly, is ball strikers. I mean, that's certainly because I want to keep it in the fairway. I want to be completely dialed in on approach. So like approach is a big deal to me. I am looking at putting a little bit. I'm looking at weighted tee to green, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, when I see my player pool, it really comes down to a lot of ball strikers. But what I'm trying to do is pivot a little bit off of the ball strikers that I know people are just definitely going to hammer. So I'm trying to find some leverage. And some of the guys that I could just point out to you that I don't think a lot of people are going to play, or they're not going to play as much as some of the other people that are right next to them in DraftKings, for example. Victor Hovland, I think, is interesting. He's not getting a lot of ownership. Ricky Fowler, not getting a lot of ownership. And granted, this can change because we still have 24 hours or almost 24 hours before the tournament starts. But Colin Morikawa at 9,000, not getting as much ownership as I thought. Again, that could creep up. Sung JM, I don't like Sung JM. I don't really want to play Sung JM. But if he stays below 10% in a 70-person field, it's somebody I'm going to consider. Keegan Bradley, Sepp Straka, Corey Connors. Straka, not so much, but Keegan and Connors historically, ball strikers. Straka, a scorer who has been absolutely on. So I'm playing Straka kind of either way. Cam Davis is another guy that's not really thought of as a ball striker. At 7,200, though, if you look at what he's done over the last 5 tournaments, the dude is not only back, but he's doing things that he didn't even really do when he was there in the first place. So the putter and the ball striker for Cam Davis, I like. Jaeger at 7,300, another ball striker. He had trouble with the putter. He actually gained with the putter last week at the Wyndham, but in round 4, he lost 3.49 strokes with the putter. But either way, I think Jaeger, from a ball striking standpoint, I might be willing to go back to Alex Smalley, even though he kind of ruined me last week. And then Nick Taylor, I know, where you're shaking your head too, both of us, right? And then Nick Taylor at 6,300. If you think you have to dip that low, that's great. But I think the long and short of it with DFS is try to do a little bit like of a different thing, maybe with your roster construction. Of course, the 3 guys at the top, you know, if I had to rate them, I'd probably go Rahm, Scotty, Rory, and I'll probably play some of Rahm, a little bit of Scotty. But I'm trying to look for, to answer your question, some plays that aren't like hyper popular that will potentially have the same amount of upside as the popular guys this week.
So if you're looking for those percentages, where do you see those? Because that's a question that people send all the time. Like, what are you looking for? Where do you go to find that number?
Yeah, so a lot of different. So if you're talking about the actual ownership numbers, a lot of different sites have that. So like, I'll just tell you the sites I use. I mean, I work for WinDailySports.com. So like they have, what we do is an ownership article that this guy Stephen Pilardi puts out in our Discord every Wednesday night, and it's really on point. And I don't really know how he does it, but he basically has an article just like listing all the ownership percentage. A lot of other sites will put out like just, you know, basically charts. Man, you can name the site like Rick Run Good, like rickrungood.com. Rick and I do the First Cut on Monday DFS show together. He has ownership on his site. So those are the things I tend to track. They're not always super on point, but the closer you get to game time, if you will, the closer those percentages get.
Yeah, and that's what I usually use Rick Run Good because that obviously just from CBS, knowing him, and so that helps. I've never done the Win Daily Sports, and so I'm going to check that out. I've seen the podcast as of late, and so I'll go ahead and check out that. So that helps people, especially if they are a novice bettor, as I am as well in the golf area. I'm obviously grew up on football. A lot of people have, you know, in the fantasy football, and then now the DFS. So me getting into golf has been awesome, learning from you, but also kind of learning the ins and outs of it. And so I know that you like a lot of people. Davis is a guy that you can target because he is cheaper. A lot of these numbers that you're giving out, they're all on the on DraftKings compared to FanDuel. FanDuel's differently. Why FanDuel? Why DraftKings over FanDuel if it's DFS? Is that just personal?
Yeah, it is. To be honest with you, so a couple things. I happened to just get into DraftKings before I got into FanDuel. In other words, like years ago when I signed up, it just so happens I was a DraftKings guy. And the reason for that was because at the time, DraftKings was becoming more popular than FanDuel. It was like very obvious that people were playing more DraftKings. And that part of the reason is because the content I was consuming, even before I got into the media space, it seemed to all be catered towards, or mostly catered towards DraftKings. They also have better contests, I think. I think their customer service might be a little bit better. I don't want to like trash FanDuel because I think FanDuel's great too, and their sportsbook is great. But I think they tend to have more issues and less contest selection, less big prizes, you know, that type of thing. But if you play FanDuel, that's great. It's just usually from a content standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, you're not hearing a ton about FanDuel.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I like FanDuel for football, but I love DraftKings for golf now that I'm in it more. For whatever reason, I just think the numbers are better and the contest, like you were saying.
They are softer in football for sure.
Yeah.
Notoriously softer for football. Yep.
Absolutely. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into some head-to-head matchups. We're going to talk about maybe some winners at the very end, but head-to-head matchups. I know that there's some guys that you like already that we've seen. If you are an early edge guy that you watch their show every day, 9:00, obviously the early wedge that comes out on Tuesdays. And so I know your guys, but is there a matchup that you're loving, that you're targeting? Like, hey, this is one that I'm really excited about because I think the opportunity is awesome and it's there, or is there just a couple that you're obviously targeting for whatever reasons?
So that's a really good question because you're not necessarily going to like all matchups the same. So I gave out 3 matchups yesterday, and I probably would have listen, I like all of them obviously, and I always like, you mentioned preparation earlier in the show. The one thing, if you want to, not that you asked this, but if you want to get into the media space, if you're not looking prepared on camera, on the podcast or whatever, if you don't have at least some, you don't have to have a ton of data because you don't want to drown people in data. They'll tune you out. But if you don't have something to back up your play, well, then when you lose, people are going to be like, well, what was that play? But if you actually have some like good reason behind your play, then people are going to be like, oh, well, he lost. That sucks. But like, I get why he made that play. So to your question, there's one play of the 3. And by the way, the 3 were Ricky Fowler over Jason Day, -135, Lucas Glover, -110 over Lee Hodges, and Brian Harmon, +100 over Tom Kim. 2 of those 3 are over at DraftKings. The Ricky Fowler one is over at Caesars. But I think the one I like the most is Lucas Glover, -110 over Lee Hodges. And I got to be honest with you, I like it so much that it seems like a little bit of a trap, but I know who Lee Hodges is, and I know who Lucas Glover is. And Lee Hodges, listen, he just won. Lucas Glover just won, but Lucas Glover has been the better player than Lee Hodges.
Yeah.
I've been touting Lee Hodges for DFS over the last few weeks, even before he won, but he has been relatively inconsistent. He's been missing cuts. Now, this is a no-cut event, but inconsistency is inconsistency. So I think Lee Hodges' upside is equal to Lucas Glover's upside, potentially, although I think you can make the argument that Glover's upside is better, but it's the inconsistency that Glover's not really showing lately, and Lee Hodges really is. So the idea that this is -110, especially if you look at DFS pricing, Glover's 7,400. Lee Hodges, I believe, is 6,500. So like in the betting market, you look at top 20s, top 40s, outrights, Glover's way ahead, and yet he's still -110 here. Again, it looks like a trap, but I know these guys, and I'm comfortable evaluating their games. And I just think Lucas Glover, he should be a -135, -140 favorite over Lee Hodges, and he isn't for some reason. So I really like that one.
I was going to bring up that point of the DFS. I've been looking at that too, is you compare those and try to figure out, like, is there something we're missing? What are the numbers, because once all the sites, and it's the same site, especially with DraftKings, you're getting these plays off of, they're not matching up, even though it is, more fantasy and more actually real life, the sport. Why aren't they matching up? And that makes you, obviously it's cause for pause, and you're thinking, okay, is this what are they trying to get over on us? What do they know that we don't know? And so those are good. Is there anybody else that you're looking at that, hey, if I find a round matchup compared to a tourney matchup that you're looking at and targeting, whether it's early in the tournament or late in the tournament?
Yeah, that's a really good question. As far as round matchups go, I mean, I'll have some on the early edge tomorrow morning for round 1. I'll probably have 1 or 2. To be honest, I haven't looked at those yet. Yeah. But typically what I'm looking for, even if it's the middle of the tournament, like let's say it's a Saturday, and one of the guys I really liked, he's been just very average. Like he made the cut, but he's been very average. And then there's a guy that's hot that I really wasn't on pre-tournament, but his first and second round metrics look really good. I'm still likely to fade that first and second round metrics guy if I really liked the guy pre-tournament. And the reason for that is I'm going to trust my pre-tournament research over the round or 2 of data that I have. So I'm going to factor in that data. Like, listen, if the guy I like is like way off on approach and that's an important stat, like I'm probably not going to take that round matchup. Right. But if he's average and there's a guy that's spiking in round 1 or round 2, but I don't think he's very good, or at least he doesn't measure up, then I think it's important to note that 1 or 2 rounds of sample size, I don't think you should factor that in as much as the 24 rounds or 50 rounds you looked at for the guy you liked pre-tournament. So that's something I definitely look at to almost fade some, not all, some of the in-tournament data.
Yeah, I like that because it gives a little bit insight to and what we should be looking for if we're doing our own research. Because I always say, don't just rely on other people and blindly bet. Like, do some research yourself. And you know what? If you come to the same conclusion, so be it. Like that means you're actually doing the right thing and you're actually following the right people. But if you're just blindly betting, eventually it's going to catch up to you because everybody goes on hot and cold streaks. But also you're not going to have as much fun. And that's what and I will say this though, there are people that
put out bets and they just don't, and they might be good bets, I don't know, but they just don't put the rationale behind it. And it just goes back to what I said about 5 minutes ago. Like, if you're blindly betting, but that quote blind betting is based off analysis that you heard and that you thought was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, you're putting some thought into what the analysis actually is, which predates the pick. Then I don't think you're blindly betting in that case. I mean, to me, if you're going to follow somebody, they got to give you some analysis, and that analysis has to be at least on point to some degree for you to accept the actual bet.
Yeah, that's a good point, because actually there is some work being put in, and you can actually see why their bet is the way it is. All right, let's before we pick some winners real quick, the weather is going to be a little weird all week. It's not going to be as hot. Normally it's 98, 100 degrees here. It's going to be, I think the high is 92 throughout the entire tournament. It is going to be rainy. It's going to be soggy. It's going to be a little wet. Is there any reason that you would maybe fade a guy, or a guy that you would look at targeting because of the weather?
That's a really good question. I thought of that earlier, like, especially when it comes to the heat, like, which of these guys doesn't look like they are fit for the course? And to be honest with you, at least of the picks that I was making, there wasn't anybody that sort of like fell into that like, I mean, I hate to say it, like, I'm picturing like a Harry Higgs, like, lumbering around the course in 95-degree heat on like a Saturday afternoon,
sweating through his shirt.
Right. Or even like a Shane Lowry. Like, I don't know how he's going to hold up in 95-degree weather over 3 days, especially being from across the pond, although I think he lives here now. But the long and short of it is, there wasn't really anybody that I looked at saying to myself, oh, I got to get rid of that guy because he's just not going to hold up.
All right, let's talk about two things real quick. We'll get you out of here in like 2 or 3 minutes. A first round leader. I know that has been your niche a little bit, and you have somehow found your way into that. Give us just one first round leader. I know you have a bunch, and people can go watch it over at the Early Edge. I want you to pick one. Put you on the hot seat.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I'm going to go with a long shot. Well, it's a relative long shot. Again, keep in mind it's a 70-person field, so the odds aren't going. You're not going to find 500 to 1 across the board when you kind of scroll down. But I'll go, instead of 500 to 1, I'll go 50 to 1. I mentioned him, Cam Davis. He doesn't appear to be a great course fit here, but again, his ball striking has been great. His approach has been good, and he's trending upward. It's like 5 tournaments, maybe 4 or 5 tournaments in a row where he's trending upward, both with the ball striking and the putter. And I just think we haven't necessarily seen the pinnacle of that trend, if you know what I'm saying. Like, the trajectory might still be going up for Cam Davis. So do I think he can win this tournament? It's a little far-fetched. It's 80 to 1. It was my long shot tournament play. I'll be honest, that's a little far-fetched, but for one round, 18 holes, 50 to 1, I think I'm willing to speculate there.
It's all about coming out hot, right? And you catch something where you're just feeling it, whether it's your putter or your irons, your driver might be, on fire. That's all you need for one of these. But weirdly enough, you are somehow hitting these on a regular basis, as well as other people that are on the early wedge. Y'all are still doing that at a good clip, and I've never seen that, and it's weird. And we try to figure out why and how, but I think it's the research, right? And it's good.
It's a little bit of luck, but it's also the research. I mean, we're looking for guys who spike for a round on a typical occasion. We're looking for good odds, and it's been working for us somehow.
All right, Nejad of CBS Sports. We want you to pick the winner here, and I just want one. I know you have others. People can go find those, but I want you to give us one. Who are you thinking?
All right, so I was going to give you sort of like the easier answer in John Rahm at plus 900, but I'm going to go with Colin Morikawa at 22 to 1. I think you can get him 25 to 1 at some places, but Colin Morikawa hasn't won in a long time. But the ball striking is there. He's certainly a good course fit. And the putter, he's gained with the putter in 5 out of the last 6. So if this guy keeps it in the fairway, which I expect, if he's dialed in on approach, which I expect, and if the putter stays hot, I think he's going to be up there contending on Sunday afternoon. And if that's the case, then, we'll see who he's contending with. But I do think he can close it out on Sunday.
Yeah, I love Rahm because I think he has played well here in the past, and I do think he's a very good fit for this course. On the Morikawa deal, I know that you gave him and Tyrrell Hatton over there, but you also gave those, and watch it. People forget like what you can actually do and how to manipulate certain numbers, but you did it without the winner of either being Rory or Scotty Scheffler, and you still get it's 20 to 1 odds, so plus 2,000. That you're not far off from the 22 to 1 or the 25 to 1. You're removing 2 people who could be really good, and you're not losing much of the juice there. I think that's smart because, a 20-1 Morikawa, that's still good if you're removing two of the big dogs.
That's right. I mean, I'm it's such an interesting bet. It's over on DraftKings. I don't know if they're offering it anywhere else, maybe, but I know it's on DraftKings. And listen, you're only losing 2 points per player, Tyrrell Hatton and Colin Morikawa. I mean, you could bet anybody. I just happened to pick those two because those were two of my winners. But 20-1, and if Scotty wins and Colin comes in second, you hit that 20-1. If Colin comes in third behind Rory and Scotty, I mean, that would be crazy if it happened just like that. But still, you're getting 20-1. You don't have to worry about the best player in the world and arguably the second best player in the world.
Yeah. All right. He is seeing Nejad. We're going to get you out of here, but man, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and talking a lot of what we love here at the FedEx St. Jude tournament here. And so it's going to be awesome to get to see this in person, but also get a chance to talk to you, the golf gambling god. Is that what we called you?
Oh, geez. Triple G.
The counselor of cash.
Counselor of God, but golf gambling God, that's probably too much, but I love the symmetry, the alliteration there. So maybe we can spruce that up a little bit. But listen, I appreciate being on the show. You're very talented at this. First of all, you make
Thank
this
you.
very, very easy, and I'm happy to come back.
Awesome, man. Can't wait. We'll see you again. All right. I hope you loved the interview with Sia. Man, that dude is one of the best dudes. We always try to celebrate the good guys. He's one of the good guys. He's going to always keep you entertained, but he's also going to teach you something. And that's what we pride ourselves on here, is learning how to teach people about betting and gambling a little bit so you can kind of help yourself out. But another thing that we can do to help you out is give you a little bit more about Zensports. Zensports is our sports book of choice. Make sure you go ahead and sign up now using the code BLUFFC. BLUFFC, very simple. Put it in and you'll start earning your 5% cash back for the first 15 days. Then you can get up to 3% cash back every month, just like your Zensports savings account, up to 3% cash back on what you spend. And then tell your friends. This is the biggest thing of all. Tell your friends you can get 5% cash back for the first 6 months. And so go ahead and sign up now using the code BLUFFC. And I promise you, you won't regret it. But that's all we have. It has been a great show. It's going to be a great week. I'm excited about the FedEx St. Jude tournament. It's going to be one of the best golf tournaments that we've had all year. The weather's a little bit dicey, and so that's going to affect a lot of things. But what you're going to see is the ball's going to stick. And so you're going to be able to see some of these guys just going for it. And so I hope you're playing along with here, and I hope you're putting in a bunch of Sia's bets. If you want to catch him anywhere else, just go over to the YouTube channel of CBS Sportsline, and you'll find him there. But it's the early edge every morning here at 9 o'clock local. But then if you want to catch him on the early wedge, it comes out Tuesday. And so make sure you tune in and celebrate Sia with us, because we think he is one of the good guys and one of the best golf handicappers around. But that's all we have. Make sure you tune in each and every week here at Bluff City Bets, where we make you just a little bit smarter and make you go in your cash go a little bit farther. That's all we have. Let's have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Bluff City Bets. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next week.